Hello, and welcome to episode 36 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner and myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how you doing today?
Baruch Hashem. Actually, I'm broadcasting from Crown Heights right now because the college is out, and Chani, her school where she teaches, where she's the principal, they're also out this week. So we came to Crown Heights to take care of things. We had a shiva call for Chani's cousin who had passed away. We were in Borough Park today for a shiva call and take care of different things, seeing the family, grandchildren, etc., etc. But 36, whoever thought? That's double chai. We've really gone way beyond what I imagined. And interesting, we'll talk about chai. This week's parsha is Vayichi, and he lived. Where did Yaakov live? Beretz Mitzrayim. The Rebbe talks about this. How could Yaakov live in Mitzrayim? What does it mean? Okay, we understand he was fine together with all the 12 tribes are together, the 12 brothers are united. Yosef is the king, has a comfortable place to live, second to the king, and Yosef gives them a great place to live. But Yaakov's life is connected to Kedusha, to holiness. And the powerful lesson from that is that when you're alive in Eretz Yisrael, you're alive. When you can be alive even in a place like Mitzrayim, whoa, that's life squared. It's like you've transformed unholy, make it holy, which is very inspiring for us in the exile. That we're able to learn from that you can be alive in exile. However, interestingly, Yaakov insists that he be buried in Eretz Yisrael and makes Yosef swear. Now, Yosef would do anything for his father. Why did he make him swear? Again, the Rebbe explains that Yosef had a reason to keep Yaakov in Mitzrayim, because we know the place of it, being near a place of a tzaddik, even his burial place, is very inspiring and uplifting. So to keep the Jews uplifted, Yosef would want to have Yaakov in Mitzrayim. Yaakov knows that. And therefore he says, because Yosef is the one who came to Mitzrayim first, he was the one that he remained at tzaddik, even though he was running the house of the butcher. Then he's running the prison. Now he's running all of Egypt. He still remains a tzaddik. And so he says, I want to keep Yaakov here, keep the holy energy here. And Yaakov says, no, you got to take him back to Eretz Yisrael. You know why? Because there's got to be something that reminds the Jew that as much as our mission is to be holy and elevate and reveal godliness in exile, the ultimate goal is redemption, Eretz Yisrael. And so therefore, in a sense, Yaakov doesn't say this to him, but Yaakov says, you know what? You, Yosef, you'll stay in Mitzrayim. You represent the inspiration that Jews need in exile. I, Yaakov, I represent where the Jews have to come home to. That's Eretz Yisrael. And so this is a very pertinent message to us, every one of us. We're on dual tracks. One track is to be as Jewish as we can, mitzvahs, using the exile experience to bring holiness to the world, and at the same time not giving up for one moment that we're expecting immediately that Mashiach will come and we'll go back to Eretz Yisrael.
Man. That was early. That's it. Pos-cast over. That's it. We're done.
No, we're kicking it up on a high thing. So at this point, I think I'll mic drop. I'll take the opportunity to introduce our good friend Betzalel Rais, who's actually calling us. He's initially from Boston. Once you hear him talk, you'll know that I had a question. And now he's calling us from Chicago, where we have a nice little group of Chabad House of Boston alumni there in Chicago. And just to let you guys know that there is a plan that I will be in Chicago on January 10th. I think it's Chavtes Chavtes Erev Rosh Chodesh Shvat, Mirz Hashem. But don't tell anybody because I made reservations, but I always like reserving the right to just not come.
If I'm looking at the other way around, if you come a few days before, my son's upsharing is on the 7th, which is a Sunday.
That's Sunday. I you can talk to me privately about this. I don't think that's going to happen though. Okay, my dear friends, we're very happy to have with us today a special guest from Chicago, originally from Boston, our good friend Betzalel Rais, and he actually offered to be our guest. And if you want to be a guest, you could offer. He offered a number of episodes ago. But now's the time for him to come on and tell us a little about his life story and some perspective coming from Chicago about what every one of us can do to bring Mashiach. What else we need to know? So start off.
So
Start from the beginning. Lean back a
when
little
I
for 3 or 4
originally
seconds.
when I originally offered to be a guest, I said it kind of as a joke because I'm thinking who's the guest, like, you know what I mean? It's got to be like a Jacobson or a Raskin or something. Rabbi Posner is connected very deep. I don't know if anybody knows this. If you don't know, do a little research. Bottom line is that it was like kind of like a long shot. I figured, if I have something to say, I am a Bostonian first and foremost. I even now, like, people ask me to repeat words a lot when I talk here. I think they're the ones with the accent, personally. I think I talk normal.
Well, it's okay.
But it is. No, I know I don't.
Well, listen,
but anyways,
Betzalel, the Pos-cast is for simple Jews. Anybody who's like too extreme for us, they don't get on. They're not going to get on. We're simple Jews.
Right.
So tell us your life story in like 4 minutes and a half.
I'm saving up to be a simple Yid. That's the bottom line. My whole life. So I was born in Melrose, Massachusetts, place completely devoid of Judaism. Stayed in that area for many years until my bar mitzvah. I somehow stumbled upon an Orthodox synagogue in Malden, and I told my mother I want to have my bar mitzvah here. It was really the most sincere divine intervention that anybody could really have. Like, I had I grew up, my parents were not religious at all. Yet here I am. I'm having my bar mitzvah in a Orthodox shul. Very strange. Happened to be in that shul. I had already met the rabbi's wife, who had taught in the Malden Hebrew school, and I had been attending that Hebrew school when I was living in the Chelsea Projects. I don't know if anybody knows or has heard of the Chelsea Projects that's listening to this podcast, but we used to go to sleep listening to gunshots. Like, it was very common at night. It was around that time. No, I'm just saying, like, I wasn't shooting. It's just, it was around the time of, like, the Rodney King incidents in LA and stuff like that. So I was going to Hebrew school, like, during the day, after school, and then going home to the projects. Like, it was very, like, even within the Hebrew school, the chances of me ever becoming religious were slim to none. Yet, here I am at Bar Mitzvah. I'm having this, I learned how to lane and the whole thing. And then the rabbi and Rebbe kept in touch with me. And they took me to this, it was like a seminar that taught about Judaism. They invited me. So I went to that, and then they invited me to their house for a 3-day yontif, very long yontif. But luckily they had a grandson that was there that was a little bit younger than me, but he seemed to know like everything that there was to know about Judaism. So I asked him over those 3 days, it must have been 1,000 questions. And I was interested. The food was good. People were nice. So I became more affiliated, more acquainted with Orthodox Jews at that time. So it happened to be I was living, at that time, I was living in Reading, Mass., which is a little bit north of Boston. But where I was living, it wasn't going to work out. So I told the Rebbe that I wanted to live with a Jewish family. So because of that, she found me an Orthodox family to live with. And I moved into what they call the ghetto in Boston, which is like the most concentrated Jewish atmosphere So I went from the least to the most in really a matter of a few years. It's just like, it was unbelievable. And I was able to get in touch with a bunch of people who helped me and guided me. And I went to Lubavitch High School, and then I stayed in yeshivas. Like I went from public school to yeshivas in like a few years. Like it was really incredible. But then life happens. I found myself in some pretty dark situations over the years as I went from a teenager to my early 20s. I ended up going to Israel. I was in Israel for a year. That was an amazing experience. Then when I came back, I was kind of like lost. Like, now what? Now, I had a couple of brothers that were very irreligious, but that's who I hung out with. I didn't have any real friends in Boston anymore at the time. Everybody from my age group that were like, yeshiva guys and stuff like that all moved on. A lot of them were married. Here I am coming from a non-religious background. So for me to get married was not so simple. Everybody thought that I was a nice guy, but like to marry their daughter, like I don't think so. So that was very tough. But I stuck with the program. I mean, I did. I had my ins and outs of being religious, not being religious, but luckily I had a few people that did not give up on me. Rabbi Posner was definitely one of those people.
When you say ins and outs, what do you mean ins and outs?
They didn't give up.
What do you mean by ins and outs? What were the outs like? How did they happen? How did you come back in?
I mean, you want to know how dark the rabbit hole got? And like it was, it got bad. Like
No,
like,
I'm trying. I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear nasty stories. My
question
is
drugs. Drugs, women. The normal pitfalls that befall somebody who for a second loses focus of the reality that Hashem is the one that's in control. So, had I kept the faith a little bit more, I think the outcome would have been different. But then again, ultimately, it's all what Hashem wanted. That's really how I look at it. So, years go by. I'm 20. I'm 25. I'm 30. I'm 35. I start finally getting my act together, and I'm dating. I came very close to the 1 yard line of being engaged. And honestly, if you asked me 1,000 times, I couldn't tell you exactly what happened. It didn't work out. But at that point, I was already more leaning towards I have to keep the track. I had lost a brother. One of those brothers that I spoke about earlier, who when I came back from Israel, I ended up hanging out with, he ended up overdosing on serious drugs, and he passed away, actually. I was the only one in the family that sat Shiva. I was the one that made sure that he got a kosher burial according to Jewish law. I was the one that made a siyum. I said Kaddish. All the things that you're supposed to do. And ultimately, as a result of that, I really do believe I was the most well-adjusted when it came to the aftermath of all that.
Wasn't that Shabbos you guys all came to the Chabad house, like a bunch of your friends?
Yes.
I remember that Shabbos.
That was right after the Levaya.
That Shabbos, they all came, and we had an amazing Shabbos. A bunch of guys stayed over in the Chabad house, and they were there
to cheer me up. I don't think I definitely don't think I would have made it without those guys, and I don't think it's because those guys are religious. I think those guys are amazing guys. They happen to be religious, and if I hadn't stayed religious all that time, I would not have been in touch with those guys. That was definitely the thing that, everything stuck together through that.
Right. Well, those are guys weren't those guys also that had their ins and outs and ups and downs?
For sure.
Okay, so
Sure.
that was a like-minded group, and they all came through, and here they were, like coming around to gather with you and to like lift up the whole situation.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. If it wasn't for those guys, I don't know where I would be psychologically from that whole mess. It's still, I named my son after my brother that I lost.
Wow.
So I think that, so after I had the broken engagement, within a year I was basically engaged again because I said to myself, what am I going to do? I'm going to let another 10 years go by. What am I going to do? I'm going to sit and sulk and be depressed and not do anything about my situation. I have to do something. And thank God I found a girl that actually, loves me and can fix computers and everything. It's like unbelievable.
Nobody knows about the computer problem, but there was a computer problem before.
Nobody knows, but let's just put it this way: this is not our first rodeo of me getting on here.
And anyone who's watching the video is going to notice very quickly that things changed.
I mean, do I sound like a guy who's tech savvy?
No.
I'm not from Cambridge. I'm not from that part of the,
No. We know
the
that
demographics.
So, tell them about the matzah bakery. You didn't tell them about the matzah bakery.
Oh, so when I was in Hebrew school, one of the trips that we went on, it's Hebrew school. Anybody that knows Hebrew school, you need a little box there. You donate some coins to the JNF. They keep it relatively light. But one of the things we did was we went to Kenmore Square, which is exciting right away. If you're a Bostonian, you hear Kenmore Square, like the Red Sox play right over there. It's fascinating. So we went there. We went to the Chabad house, and in the basement there was an oven that was set up, and there was a model matzah bakery. And this is one of the initiatives that the Rebbe must have put forth for Chabad houses.
So the model matzah bakery was an idea. Actually, it wasn't the Rebbe that came up with the idea, but what the Rebbe wanted was that people should get shmura matzah, like the handmade ground matzahs. So one of the ways of introducing it to people was to bring children and to show them how matzah is actually made, handmade matzahs. Then it's already a craft. It's a great program before Pesach. So a lot of the Hebrew schools like doing that, and it's a trip to bring the kids. And so I don't know if you remember this, but we start off with stalks of wheat and show how you get those, how you thresh them, and then we have a grinder grinding the wheat into flour. And while we're doing these activities, we're talking about different things about Yiddishkeit. For example, the idea that when you thresh the wheat, you have to let the animal eat. You can't muzzle the animal, showing that you have to be kind to animals. Different things about Pesach, and then we actually use flour, regular flour and water, and we have it all set up like a real matzah bakery. The flour is separate, the water is separate, and then mix it all together and give each kid a little piece of dough, and then each kid rolls out their own matzah, and then they put it in the oven, and it looks somewhat like real shmura matzah. We emphasize 1,000 times that it's not kosher for Pesach. Make sure you eat it before Pesach. But then each kid got a box with an actual shmura matzah in it, and that was really the point of the whole thing. But I got to tell you, I remember doing that in the Chabad house, and the Chabad house was so small. We had to go and we had an art project while the matzah is baking. To get the kids from one room to the other room, it was such a headache. And we kept on we did it for many, many years. And it's just fascinating to hear from you. I had no idea that you ever came. I think it's the first time you're telling me about this, but just to think.
I remember going down those stairs, and it wasn't open like it is now. But I remember going down those stairs, and right at the bottom of the stairs, that's where the oven was. No, it was on the other side.
It was whatever. Your memory's a little.
It was behind the stairs, Yeah,
whatever. It doesn't matter. But the point is that.
No, but the point is, I'm talking about this many years ago. I still have a visual of it because that's how much of an impact it made on me.
Exactly. It's amazing. And yeah, and that was one of the things that Rebbe did teach us. That if you teach something to a child, it makes an impression on them, and they'll remember it forever and ever. So
Right.
any positive interaction, you're not wasting your time. Think about it like planting a seed. The seed is in there, and then it gets watered at some time, and it sprouts. So who knows what value it has. So to hear that from you is really great. It's fantastic, and it's inspiring to everybody. You reach out to How many people have I reached out to? Think, a random meeting, a tefillin here, a word of Torah, a Shabbos, a mezuzah, and think, okay, that's it. And you find out like years later, or you don't find out. The finding out is nice to know because it pushes you to move forward, inspires you to go further. But it's not important. Who cares about? You have to know you did your part, and then David keeps track of who's who and what's what. Anyway, so that was. So that was the matzah bakery. One of the things that I would like put on. We had these little matzah baking hats, and I would need the dough. And then I remember I said this once, and actually Ara Kabilya, who was our guest from Israel about a month ago, so I was kneading the dough, and I said to the kids, "Did you ever see a rabbi knead dough?" And then I said to him, I said, "Arik, did you ever see a rabbi who didn't knead dough?"
Oh, that's great. That's
Anyway,
great.
all right. So you got married, Baruch Hashem, and now tell us about the herring man.
So before I left Boston, I got married as coronavirus was hitting. I got married on March 15th, 2020.
Okay.
March 15th, 2020. The morning laws were different than the afternoon laws, which were different than the evening laws. It was unbelievable. It was like I had people at the wedding. They were wearing gloves. Some people at the wedding were like not touching anybody. Some people had Lysol cans, and it was unbelievable.
I remember that.
And I thought I was just hallucinating because it's the day I'm getting married, and it's so surreal. Like I don't know. So I moved to Boston for about 4 months. Tried to make a living. I started up a landscaping company again, not the first time, but it wasn't going. Like people were staying in their house. Like people were, it was like hard to get people out of their house. A very weird time. Also, like here I am, newly married, and nobody's inviting my wife and I out for like Shabbos meals or anything because nobody's having anybody over. Everybody's petrified. So we ended up moving to Chicago. One of the things I was told before I got married was that you absolutely must have an outdoor chuppah. If you have an outdoor chuppah, there are certain rabbis that promise that immediately you'll have a child in the merit of having an outdoor chuppah. So it's Chicago, it's March, it's cold, and we had an outdoor chuppah. I insisted on it. I said, listen, I'm not a spring chicken. I want to have a child right away. Let's do this outdoor chuppah. Let's see what we can do. It was freezing that day. Everybody's wearing coats. I didn't wear a coat anyway, so I wasn't really that. I had to wear 3 coats, untied shoes. There's a whole bunch. It's a whole thing. You'll learn about it. So I'm like, I'm under the chuppah. It's crazy. Like, people are coming up. A lot of people canceled on the day of the wedding, like half. It's because everybody's like, petrified. Wuhan, this, that, Italy, and people are like passing out left and right. It's like, well, you never heard of a flu, but whatever. I wasn't too worried about it. I had like 50 doctors in the room. You know what I mean? I was fine. Like whatever. If something's gonna happen, it'll happen anyway. So I go in. I get married. My wife got pregnant about 6 weeks after we got married. So listen, I've seen enough in my life to know that when you see something written in a sefer, in a holy book, and, the holy rabbi tells you something, don't take it lightly. Don't take it for granted, and know that it's possible that somebody knows something a little bit more than you. So I think that's basically the. I mean, and I couldn't be happier now. Like I had to move in with my in-laws a little bit, so when I moved to Chicago, but now we're in our own house, and I mean, it's not because of like the outcome. If you realize along the journey that things get rocky and they get a little muddy, but ultimately, good things are coming, then your whole life is different. There's always going to be stuff that goes, sideways. The rabbi is in Crown Heights right now because his wife lost a cousin. You think that's going to stop them from bringing people for Shabbos? You think it's going to stop them from the new model matzah bakeries that they do now? You think it's going to stop them from doing mitzvahs? No, because ultimately they know that there's a lot of good things that come their way also by living that lifestyle. Now, if somebody doesn't want to live that lifestyle, I can't, nobody can force them. But,
No, but I
like,
think,
look at
Sal, one second. I think what you said is really important, especially now, because I was just reading an article about the current situation, about anti-Semitism. And the guy writes a whole thing about, anti-Semitism starting with the Christians and the Muslims, and it's always been like that, and the Holocaust, and then finally we got Israel and thought we were safe, and then all of a sudden, the whole Hamas thing happens, and, all the hatred that resulting, not just there in Israel, but around the world, there's so much anti-Semitism going. And okay, so I'm reading this article, I'm nodding my head, yes, good. Then the so what? And the so what is, like, he doesn't end with I didn't know who the writer was, and obviously not a very observant Jew, but he doesn't end with anything uplifting. So he says you can
right,
cry, feel bad, you can pray to God. No, the point of laying out that whole scenario is exactly what you're saying, that your life is a paradigm of the Jewish people, rocky, going up,
right.
going down, in, out, bad stuff happening, but not bad stuff that looks bad is happening, and then
I
the
mean,
only
the way
question is,
we understand it, it's not good. Right,
right. But the thing is, what happens the next? What's the next step? And the next step is to get back to your Judaism. The reason why Jews don't just disappear is because of God and the Torah and the neshama of every Jew. And that's really the message. And I think that's why from your personal life, which is like amazingly inspiring, like, whoa, it took that long to finally get on the path, and thank God you found your wife, and thank God, which is, that completes your neshama. And now thank God you have
right.
a son. And that's like unbelievable. A son that's growing up in a house that keeps Shabbos and keeps Torah mitzvahs. I don't think many people along the line with you throughout your life actually said, one day I can see you with a son who's having an upshare on January 7th, all are invited, and who would have thought that would have happened? But it happened, Baruch Hashem, and it only comes because of the strength of the Jewish soul. So Jews out there who seeing what's going on, they got to tap into that energy. And that's the
Right.
answer. Don't sit there worrying what's going to be. All these people, I don't feel safe here, I don't feel safe there. And the guy writes an article, there's no safe place for a Jew anywhere in the world. That's the message.
We have to only control what we can control, and that's our own actions to do good to hopefully affect the outcome in a positive way. That's it. That's all we
Exactly.
can do.
That's what we have control. What we have control is our personal behavior and knowing who we are.
Right.
Why are we Jews? What are we doing in this world? God didn't put us here so we should
Quick
hate
story.
everybody.
Quick story about a Purim that I was in the Chabad house, and I brought a handle of vodka. A handle.
Well, we know what a handle
It's
is.
just like,
It has a handle.
we know what a handle is. Yes, of course. You have to get a handle on it. So I brought a handle of vodka of like Smirnoff. It wasn't cheap, but it wasn't too expensive. And I had it under the table, and I'm pouring shots. And I had no idea I really didn't have any idea that some of these kids were like under 21. I had no clue. I'm pouring shots like I worked at a bar room. And everybody's like, they're taking the shots, they're laughing. Rabbi Posner gets wind at the end of the table. Something is amiss. And he came down and he reached under the table, grabbed the handle, and he said, if you really want this bad enough, you'll come and get it from my office after Purim. I said, I don't know what the big deal is, Rabbi, but I'll see you there. And I had the chutzpah to go into the office and take it after. And now I don't touch the stuff, but at the time, like, you know, it goes to show, like, you know, you're not trying to have any ill intent, but sometimes on the flip side, if you don't watch it and you're not paying attention to what's going on, you know, a lot of bad things can happen just by, you know, trying to do the right thing, but with no boundaries.
Right. Yeah.
And I see that, you know, right now. Listen, people, these college kids now, you know, I was around a lot of college kids being in Brookline, Brighton. I lived there also, and a lot of these college kids now, these Jewish kids have a real challenge about how to deal with anti-Semitism and how to just at the same time have a good time. Are they allowed to have a good time in college? You know, it's part of the experience is you could be the most religious person in the world, and part of the experience is to have a good time. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it is. That's the bottom line. It's just unfortunate.
Yeah,
we don't
but
want.
But the thing is, I think what it does to college kids, it in a way, yeah, you can have a good time, all that kind of stuff, but you have to deal with the reality of what's going on in the world. And the reality of the world is you have to really look a little deeper into what the whole purpose and value of life is. That's the whole point. And I think that's really the message.
Hopefully, these kids can make it into a Chabad house and get a real perspective. Because, you know, if they turn on the TV, if they turn on their phone, if they turn on the computer, they have no basis of reality of what's close to real.
Can you tell us a little about what you're doing now? Your commercial kitchen. What's going on over there?
So if you look behind me, you'll see there's a lot going on. Some tin cans, some boxes, some other boxes, and shelving, and so I started a company in Boston called Herring Man. And what it was in the beginning was I just reviewed different types of herring that other people had, you know, Sugar Crown Heights Rabbi Raskins and Bentsy's and all those guys. The first one was Bentsy's. And then I moved on to like pretty much every herring. And then I ran out. And somebody said, you know, these videos are really good. A lot of people like the videos. They said, these videos are really good. How do you think you can monetize the idea? So the idea came up, you should make herring. So it started small, started with 3, you know, flavors of herring. Now we're up to like 10 or 11. We get orders every week. We bought a commercial kitchen here that has power of ice cream, the best power of ice cream in the Midwest. You got to try it if you're in Detroit. Just saying.
What's it called?
It's called Barry Delicious. My son Baruch is Barry, so Barry Delicious. That's the name of it. It's got a picture of him on it. See if I have any.
He'll Google it. Barry Delicious.
I have it.
Oh, there it is. One second, put it back. Okay, lift it up a little bit. Barry Delicious ice cream, frozen desserts. Oh wow, he's a good-looking kid.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, CRC, great hashgacha, and then so we do that, and my wife does gluten-free challah. She just started doing that a couple of months ago. And then what else do we do? We do catering, full-scale Fleischer catering.
Wow. So you have a whole crew there.
No. You're looking at it. And I'm on a podcast. But no. I just made like about 10 times 9, 90 half gallons of ice cream over the last 2 days.
Wow.
All ordered, all bought and paid for. There's a lot. I mean, it's a good business.
It goes into regular, and so the herring also goes only to the Midwest.
So the herring, there's a grocery store here called Jewel Osco. It's in Albertsons. Albertsons is the parent company. They do Star Market and
They carry it only
whatever.
in Chicago.
Shaw's.
It's only carried in Chicago?
Yeah, because I don't have an ice cream truck big enough to get it to the East Coast. I want to start an East Coast operation.
Okay. We'll wait for it to happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, regardless of that, I would say my life really started to turn around for me. The biggest, if I could pinpoint it, it was when I met my wife.
Wow. And what did that do? You pretty much had.
I feel like I was really not alone anymore in the world. And Abishur side. That's really that's what it did. Now, is everybody going to get that? I don't know. I think you have to truly feel alone before you can feel
together.
Like a person doesn't complete you, because that sounds like The Notebook or something. Like before a person compliments you in a way that you realize without that person you're missing something.
Wow.
Not that it's not a fairy tale. It's not.
Right. To really feel it. Wow, it's amazing. Okay. Very good.
It's beautiful. It's quite the message and the thought to end on. So thank you very much for joining us, Betzalel. Thank you so much for listening at home and watching at home, whatever you choose to do with this Pos-cast. And thank you so much for joining us for episode 36 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner. We will be back next week.
Here's